If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Yo, thanks for checking out another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. I wasn't really sure how I was going to do this. In fact, I wasn't sure until about 15 minutes ago that I was actually going to do this. If you're listening to this podcast, you know the news came down as of this recording earlier today that Prince passed away at the age of 57. Honestly, I wasn't sure that I was going to do this podcast because I didn't know what to say. I was really speechless, to be honest, once I got the news. I got the news pretty much like everybody else. It's funny because the first thing that I got was a link to CNN saying that police were investigating a possible death on Prince's estate. And I clicked the link and that's pretty much what it said. And what's weird is that, like, when it said they were investigating a death on his estate, like, upon reading it, I never thought for a second that it might be Prince. Which is weird because, like, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe a gardener or somebody, that worked at, his house passed away. I'd never thought it. It just, it's weird when you think about it. Nonetheless, he has transitioned to the afterworld that he mentioned on Let's Go Crazy. And I really haven't spent a lot of time on social media, and because I think, like, sometimes it's hard to really quantify what people, particularly when you're talking about celebrities or entertainers, what they mean to you, because, how could you summarize someone's feelings or emotions or what they did for you or what feelings they brought out of you in 140 characters or in a Facebook post or in an Instagram post. And it's been great seeing the tributes and everything. I'm usually one to kind of stay away from that stuff because I don't know how I can necessarily quantify my feelings and my emotions into a bunch of tweets. Nonetheless, this is just me talking. I think it's interesting enough when you hear about a celebrity, and I'll be honest with you guys, like, I'm really not one to get caught up into when someone passes away, getting all emotional and stuff like that, unless it's obviously a close relative. But, I think, and I learned just a couple of weeks ago when Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest passed away, like, it really bothered me. Like, I was really, really bothered by it because I'm such a fan. And, A Tribe Called Quest music influenced my life. The same can be said for Prince. Like, I can't tell you how far I go back with Prince. Probably back to the Prince album, 1979. That's when it came out. And what's interesting is that I remember singing these Prince songs, and obviously the subject matter was way above the head of a 10-year-old. But we sang it and we watched stuff, and we watched the videos when they eventually came on. Prince was a huge influence, and I think this podcast is more or less for people who want to take a listen to someone reflect on Prince. And I never really quantified Prince as a pop star or rock star or whatever. I mean, Prince, when he changed his name, or he wanted people to call him the artist, or the artist formerly known as Prince, that's exactly what Prince is. He's an artist. I think at the end of the day, that's one thing that we will always remember about him. He was incredibly talented, to say the least. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about like so many memories, but I go back to, just some of my earlier memories of Prince. Again, he put out music when I was listening in 1979 or 1980. I wasn't old enough to necessarily comprehend what it was that he was singing about, but the songs were played on the radio. We had the albums. There was no iTunes back in 1980. And I was only 8 years old at the time. So imagine me walking around the house, singing songs from Dirty Mind, which my parents had the album. So, 8-year-old kid walking around singing, Uptown, I don't know, but it was just, that was just like, it was great because that era, was so inclusive, and it lent itself to just being yourself. And one of the things that I always loved about Prince is that he was himself. He was who he was, and he was very unapologetic for that. And I remember, like, if you came up when we came up in the 80s, the easiest way to start a fight would be to say who's better, Michael Jackson or Prince. I mean, that clearly is going to start a fight, because you had your Michael Jackson fans, you had your Prince fans, and then you had fans, people like me who were fans of both. But you had to pick a side. Like, it was either Prince or Michael Jackson. And honestly, as much as I love Michael Jackson, it's Prince all day. I say, we would always argue about which was better album, Purple Rain or Thriller. To me, Purple Rain was a better album. And I think Thriller was incredible. But, I'm not here to necessarily start that debate, because I don't want to debate with anybody about that right now. Nonetheless, man, it's sad. It's tough because, I was telling one of my friends earlier, like, Prince is one of those artists that we grew up on that you really just expected them to live forever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like again, such a musical influence on me. You expected them to be around forever. And of course, nobody lives forever. And so to have him pass away is just like a shock. And 57 is very, very young. And I was telling one of my boys earlier, I said, it feels like we're losing, it really feels like we lost a small piece of our childhood. If you came up in the 80s, Prince was the man. I mean, not only did he have great music, but he had some of the baddest women in the world. And of course, we admired that. Rest in peace to Vanity, who passed away earlier this year. So it's really tough when you think about it. I couldn't really confine my feelings on Prince into like I said, 140 characters or just a Facebook post. I really was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I mean, because again, this is someone who has influenced me musically in many, many ways. I remember back in the day, man, I had the Purple Rain album. I had the real album, and then I had the 12-inch, and then I had singles. And I remember like one of the I think it was a B-side. It had to be a B-side, 17 Days. That was like my joint. I had that on I want to say I had that on like 12-inch single. I used to play it on my record player all the time. I still got the album cover somewhere at my mom's house. I don't even know if I still have the album. Of course, if I had the album, I don't know what I could do with it because I don't have anything to play it on. But again, man, he was just such a huge influence, not just on me, but I'm sure on you if you're listening to this podcast. I think we can't really put Prince in a box per se. I heard someone, refer to him as a pop icon. He was more than that, and it's real bugged out for me to even be speaking about Prince in the past tense. And when you look at his albums, obviously everybody remembers Purple Rain, but he had some classics. He had classic songs. He had whatever kind of music. Whatever kind of music you wanted, Prince could give it to you. I'm like I said, I was such a fan. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've had every single album. But I do know fans like that. But I think the last album I can remember buying, I have them all digitally now, but I think the last album that I actually physically bought was Planet Earth, and that was in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. But I have them all digitally. But last actual physical album that I bought, and so it's gonna be good to go back and listen to them. But to be honest, if you're a Prince fan, you probably, like me, you probably listen to them on a regular basis. You may listen to a song or two here or there. But again, just a huge loss, man. I'm not necessarily one for speeches, but he touched a lot of people, myself included. And I remember, Prince was the dude to introduce me to the air guitar. I used to sit in my room and I'd be playing a little fake air guitar, pretending I was Prince back in '82. So, it was just like, that was what you did, man. You wanted to be like that guy. I wasn't gonna be walking around with no boots on, with high heels, or with my ass out or anything like that. But he was he was an influence, a huge influence. And like I said, if you came up in the 80s, and you don't necessarily have to come up in the 80s, but for people, particularly from my era coming up in the 80s, man, Prince was everything, to be honest. I can't lie. In the 80s, 90s, he was everything. And he never compromised as far as, what he wanted to do artistically. He was very active socially. I remember he did the Baltimore song for Freddie Gray, who was murdered by the Baltimore police. So he'd be around. We saw him a couple of weeks ago at a Golden State Warriors game, and he had been battling the flu. And I'm not even going to get into the cause of his death. All we know is that he's been battling the flu, and it's unfortunate because just a week ago, he was right here in Atlanta for his last performance. He performed twice here in the ATL. And I told myself that I was going to go to the concert. And what happened was the concert was on Thursday, and I'd already planned to go to the Rakim concert on Friday. So I went to the Rakim concert, and I told myself, you know what, I'll catch Prince the next time. I'm not, because I've never seen him perform live. And I told myself I'd catch Prince the next time. And obviously the next time won't be. When you have situations like this, you start thinking about your friends and family and people who grew up in the music and the culture that you did, and are fans. One of the first people that I thought about was my homegirl. You know her, Shelly Shell, who co-hosted a lot on the 12 radio show. Shell and I are really close, and Shell is a huge Prince fan. She has seen Prince, I think at least like 10 times. So, I thought about her. So I sent her a text and I didn't get a response. And I was like, I was going to call her. I was like, nah, let me just chill for a second. And then she finally texted me back a little later. But, just really, going through the gamut of emotions. I'm pretty sure that's how she was, and a lot of fans as well, because nobody saw this coming. I mean, everybody knew about the situation that he had, where he got ill on the airplane ride back to Minneapolis. People were concerned. I mean, anytime someone has the flu, it's a cause for concern. I'm not sure how he took care of himself and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure he took care of himself, but you know what? I never really worry too much about or get into stuff when people pass away as to how they died, because what does it matter? It doesn't matter how you died. It's really about how you lived. And Prince lived life to the fullest. He lived life to the fullest, and he seemed to enjoy. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned from Prince was that the artistic side of him, like, he really enjoyed creating his craft. He really enjoyed being an artist. He really enjoyed making music. Now, there are a lot of people that make music just for money, or they make music for any number of reasons. I mean, he's got, millions of dollars. So he wasn't necessarily making music, for his fans or anything. I think he genuinely enjoys making music. And I'm sure that at some point in time, we probably will hear some of the music that he never made or was never released. And his unreleased music, you could probably make decades worth of albums for him, because I'm pretty sure he's a guy who, records and, probably says, okay, well, this is not good enough. And then, maybe some of that stuff makes albums past or present. But it's a tough loss. This one's tough. And it's kind of still hard for me. It's only been a few hours, but it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around, to be honest. Because you just, as I mentioned earlier, you just don't really see people like that leaving. And so it's bittersweet. Again, it's bittersweet for me because I didn't get a chance to see him perform live. But I think ultimately, he'll leave a tremendous legacy. I told some of my closest friends, like, after Michael Jackson died, I made a comment to one of my best friends. He never let me forget it. I said, I don't think people will really, really understand Prince until he's long gone. Because there's still a huge segment of the population because he's very, very private. You don't know much about his private life. I know he was married twice. I don't think he's had any kids. In fact, I'm pretty sure he didn't have any kids. But that's about it. I know he had some fine women, but outside of that, you don't know. And maybe it's like he's married. He was always married to music. So I was, to be honest, the two times that Prince got married, I was surprised that he got married, because a guy like that, a person like that, is that they're more or less married to music more than anything else. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough loss, man. It is a tough loss. I felt like I needed to do this just to get it off my chest, to really just kind of talk to Prince, if you will, and talk to fans and people who appreciate him and his music. This one's tough, and it's going to be kind of hard. It's hard to wrap my head around it. It's still fresh. Time will, people say time heals all wounds. I don't know that necessarily that you want this wound to heal to some degree, because you always want to feel that, that feeling that you felt the first time you heard When Doves Cry. You always want to feel that feeling that you felt when you heard Sign of the Times, or, Girls and Boys, or Housequake. I mean, like, just to name a few. Like, I started thinking, like, what's my top 5 favorite Prince song? It's hard. His discography is such that to be honest, I couldn't name you my top 5 Prince songs. I probably could name you my top 5 Prince albums that I like, my favorite albums, but top 5 songs, nah. I mean, I need more time. It's too soon, very, very too soon. Nonetheless, let's take a quick commercial break, and after we get back from the break, I'll share with you a Prince story of me possibly meeting him in Minneapolis. But actually, I'll just share the rest when we get back from the break. So hold tight. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a second. Sit tight.
How would you describe your music? What idiom would you put it in?
The only thing I could think of, because I really don't like categories, but the only thing I could think of is inspirational. And I think music that is from the heart falls right into that category. People who really feel what it is that they're doing. And ultimately, all music is or can be inspirational. And that's why it's so important to let your gift be guided by something more clear.
Now, where does your inspiration come from?
I like to believe that my inspiration comes from God. And that,
Did you always believe that?
no, as you grow older, you learn and you start to you get smarter. Yeah.
And just like that, we're back. About 6 years ago, I was working for this company. The company was based out of Minneapolis. So I was actually working in Minneapolis, and I still lived here in Atlanta, but I would fly home on the weekend. So they paid for, my hotel, car, and flights home back and forth and such. And I did that for a year, right? So my hotel is downtown Minneapolis. It was literally 2 blocks away from First Avenue, the club where they shot Purple Rain. So, the fan in me said, okay, you know what, I'm going to go to the club. So one night I went to the club, and it was open and everything like that. I walked around and got an eye full of the memorabilia and stuff like that. And it was just a good feeling, good vibe. So fast forward a couple of days later, my favorite baseball team, the New York Yankees, come to town to play the Minnesota Twins at Target Field. I think Target Field had only been open for maybe a year, so it was cool to go to the new stadium or whatever. So I get to the stadium, I'm checking out my Yankees. My Yankees are playing. I'm happy. I got my Yankees hat on. I'm chilling. Nice seats and everything. Tickets were relatively cheap. Nice seats down the third baseline, and the box seats where we were sitting, me and a couple coworkers, somebody had said, "Yo, Prince is at the game." What? This can't be. So I asked them again. They was like, "Yeah, Prince is at this game." So I'm like, "Yo, if Prince is at the game, I gotta meet him, yo. I gotta meet him." So, and I've only shared this story with a couple of people, but I'm gonna share it with you guys who are listening. When I found out that he was at that game, I acted just like a little groupie. I mean, like, my voice was high. I was like, "You gotta be kidding!" And trust in me, trust and believe me. I'm not one to be starstruck. I'm not one to wig out around celebrities, because I figure, like, hey, you're a celebrity. I don't care. You're an athlete. I don't care. You put your pants on one leg at a time, just like me. But this was different. This was Prince. So I figured, just like any place else, every stadium, every arena has the area where the boxes or suites or lounge area inside where players, family, celebrities, people like that can go, dignitaries or what have you. So I'm like, "Yo, I'm gone." And my coworkers like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going to meet Prince." They was like, "You don't know where he is?" I'm like, "I'm going to find him." When I tell you guys, I walked around until I found the area where I knew was in Target Field where I could go. And of course there's security there. So I'm like, I can get past security, right? So, so I think it's some little scheme or whatever like that to get past security. So I'm walking up and I'm talking like I'm on the phone, and security, and because I've always been told, if you want to go somewhere, just act like you belong there, and you'll be surprised how many times people won't stop you. So I'm walking like I'm supposed to be going into this little lounge area or whatever, and the security guy says, he said, "Excuse me, sir, where's your you have your ID badge or visitor's pass?" And I said, "I don't have it." I said, I was just on the phone with my cousin Kevin. He's inside. He told me to meet him down. He told me to come down here. So, I'm just going here to get with him." And he was like, "Well, sir, I can't let you in here without a badge or a pass." And I said, well, I just got off the phone with my cousin. I said, can I call him back and can I just meet him in there? And he was like, well, I can't let you go past this point. And so I pull my phone out of my pocket. I'm acting like I'm dialing it again. Like I'm going through all these measures just to meet Prince. And so I'm acting like I'm dialing and I'm like, oh, he's not answering his phone. I said, can I just walk? I said, I'm sure he's right around the corner. He's right there. He's right there. Let me walk around the corner. I said, I promise you I'll come right back. I said, because I'm just going to meet him to get some money from him and I'm leaving. And he said, well, sir, I'm sorry. I can't let you go. So I said, you know what? I got to think of another way to get into this lounge area. And so I go around the corner from where he is and I see a door. And I was just about to push the door open. The door said like security personnel. And then another security guard sees me coming. So then I kind of turn around and I walk back away. And I'm like, yo, I'm really, really acting like a little groupie right now. I mean, like if you had seen me, but I wanted to meet Prince. I mean, and, long story short, I couldn't get past security. I kind of hung around for a little while and, hoping I could kind of catch a glimpse of him. If I saw him that day, I would have just gone up to him, gave him some dap and been like, yo, man, I'm a big fan. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, I'd have said something like that. I wouldn't have been like, yo, can I take a picture with you? Can I get your autograph? I wouldn't have done that. But I mean, it's Prince, so I lost my mind, but it's okay. Nonetheless, man, again, it's when I think about that story and, I think about, growing up, like I said, in my room, just sitting in my room, just listening to Prince albums. It's bittersweet. It is. It's bittersweet because again, he's one of the people that influenced me musically. And so when you hear that kind of music and you hear that kind of talent, you just assume that they're going to be around forever. Obviously none of us will be around forever, but to be honest, if we're honest with ourselves, the one thing that I do know is that when someone leaves this earth, particularly an artist such as Prince, they never leave because they've left a legacy. And if you want to touch their legacy, all you have to do is press play. You press play and they come back to life. So, for the man who sang the song "Sometimes It Snows in April," and I thought about that song the day when I heard that he had passed, because I'm like, man, that was one of my favorite songs off that album. "Sometimes It Snows in April," and I was like, man, it'll forever snow in April because Prince died in April. It's real surreal. So again, we mourn the loss of an icon, but we can always bring him back when we press play. And I think at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to take with me. And I suggest that you do the same. If you ever doubt the power of music, listen to what he had to say on any of his albums, and you'll feel him in your heart. Prince Rogers Nelson, dead at the age of 57, definitely gone too soon. Before we get out of here, I'm just going to play this last track, man. It's a classic. Super Bowl performance, Super Bowl, I think this was 2007. He played in the rain, man. And I remember it was raining, and I heard a guy on TV today who was one of the producers of the halftime show at the Super Bowl. They said they talked to Prince right before it was time for him to go on. The guy said, well, Prince, it's raining. He said, are you going to be okay? And Prince said, can you make it rain even harder? I mean, and that is one of the most, by a lot of people's definitions, one of the all-time best Super Bowl halftime performances ever. So Prince Rogers Nelson will definitely be missed, gone but not forgotten. Thanks again for checking out the 12 Kyle podcast. I'll holler at you next time. 5,000.
never meant to call you this ever. I never meant to call you baby. I know one time, so you left me. Only want to see you laugh in the purple rain, purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Only wanna see you laughing there, purple rain.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.